Back in my day, we got married earlier and had more kids. Back in my day, we didn't get the big paychecks you do today. Back in my day, it was easier to buy a home. What was life really like back in the day? In this video, we will look at the lives of baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials when they were between 25 and 39 years old. To do this, we will look at 3 different time points: 1991, 2006, and 2021. Back in 1991, Dances with Wolves was the #1 box office film in Australia. Everything I Do It For You by Bryan and Adam was the #1 song on the ARIA charts. World Wide Web's first page went live on the internet. First color scanner was introduced by HP. CD sales overtook cassette sales. First GSM cellular phone call was made. LA Crows joined the expanding AFL competition and Chicago Bulls won their first NBA championship. Australia was in a recession. USSR dissolved. The Prime Minister was Bob Hawke, and Holden Commodore was Australia's top-selling car. Back in 2006, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest was the #1 box office film in Australia. I Wish I Was a Punk Rocker with Flowers in My Hair by Sandy Tom was the #1 song on the ARIA charts. Facebook became available to anyone above the age of 13. Nintendo Wii gaming console first released. iPod Shuffle released as the world's smallest MP3 player. Motorola Razr was the top-selling mobile phone globally. Jason Gillespie scored a double century as a night watchman in his first test for Australia, and Shane Warne announced his retirement from international cricket. Melbourne held the 18th Commonwealth Games. Pluto was downgraded to a dwarf planet. The Prime Minister was John Howard, and Holden Commodore was still Australia's top-selling car. Back in 2021, Spider-Man: No Way Home was the #1 box office film in Australia. Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber was the #1 song on the ARIA charts. Drones and unmanned vehicles were the top trending technologies. iPhone 12 was the top-selling smartphone globally. The delayed 2020 Olympics was held in Tokyo, and Emma McCune became the most decorated Australian Olympian with her 11th Olympic medal. COVID-19 vaccine became available, first paying customer on a suborbital space flight. The Prime Minister was Scott Morrison, and Toyota Hilux was Australia's top-selling car. The age range of 25 to 39 is often linked to key life milestones such as completing study, establishing relationships, marriage, having children, and purchasing a home. The way each generation lives and works is shaped by the social, cultural, economic, and political conditions of their time. The census results show a significant shift in attitudes towards religion. In 1991, only 16% of people aged 25 to 39 had no religious affiliation. By 2021, this had jumped to nearly half of the people in the same age group. In 1991, 38.1% of people in their late 20s and 30s had stayed put at the same address for 5 years. By 2021, only 29% had done the same. This likely reflects the increased mobility and lifestyle changes of the younger generation, who might be moving more frequently for work, study, or housing affordability reasons. The percentage of people born overseas has risen significantly. Baby boomers and Generation X born overseas were mostly from England, New Zealand, and Vietnam. By 2021, millennials showed a major shift, with India becoming the top country of birth, followed by China and New Zealand, reflecting increased immigration from Asia in recent decades. Language use at home has also evolved. In 1991, baby boomers mainly spoke Italian, Greek, and Cantonese, reflecting early migration from Southern Europe and Hong Kong. In 2006, Generation X showed a shift, with Arabic becoming the most spoken language, followed by Greek and Mandarin, indicating growing migration from the Middle East and China. By 2021, millennials demonstrated a further evolution, with Mandarin taking the top spot, followed by Punjabi and Arabic, reflecting the growing diversity of Australia's population with increased migration from India and other parts of Asia. When it comes to occupations, sales assistant roles have consistently been a top occupation for Australians aged 25 to 39 across all generations. However, there has been a notable shift over time, with millennials in 2021 showing an increased presence in roles like primary school teacher. In terms of industries, retail trade dominated for baby boomers in 1991, but Generation X and millennials have transitioned to professional, scientific, and technical services as a leading industry. For people aged 25 to 39, their living arrangements are usually influenced by having relationships and starting a family. Millennials were least likely to have married or have children compared to baby boomers and Generation X back in their day. In 2021, over half of millennials had never been married, compared with 43.7% of Generation X in 2006 and just over 1/4 of baby boomers in 1991. Millennials married at an older age. Half of the baby boomers were married by the age of 27. For Generation X, half were married by 32, and for millennials, 34. The most common living arrangement for millennials in 2021 was living in a couple household with no children, which was almost twice the rate of Generation X in 2006 and more than twice the rate of baby boomers in 1991. So it's no surprise that the household size for millennials was smaller than the other generations. However, millennials' dwellings were more likely to have more bedrooms. In 2021, 34.6% of millennials' dwellings had 4 or more bedrooms, compared with 28.7% for Generation X in 2006 and 20.4% for baby boomers in 1991. Millennials were also more likely to have 2 or more motor vehicles at their dwellings, compared to Generation X and baby boomers. Separate houses have traditionally been the most common dwelling type for those aged 25 to 39, but millennials are less likely to live in separate houses compared to earlier generations, with affordability and availability driving shifts towards apartments and townhouses. Now we have seen how living arrangements have evolved, let's dive into the biggest challenge of all, housing affordability. The likelihood of owning a home when aged 25 to 39 years decreased for each successive generation. Just over half of millennials in 2021 were homeowners, either outright or with a mortgage, compared with 62.1% of Generation X in 2006 and almost 2/3, 65.8% of baby boomers in 1991. Baby boomers aged 25 to 39 years were 3 times more likely than millennials to own their home without a mortgage. Interestingly, all generations spend a higher proportion of their income on mortgage repayments than on rent, but Generation X faced the highest relative cost. The Reserve Bank cash rate in 2021 was significantly lower than in 2006 and 1991. However, despite historically low interest rates, millennials still face stagnant wage growth, rising cost of living, and surging property prices, making home ownership increasingly difficult. In 1991, housing prices were relatively low compared to incomes. On average, homes cost 3 to 4 times the median household income. Baby boomers typically needed to save 1 to 2 years' worth of income for a deposit. But many baby boomers could afford to purchase homes in their 20s, often with only 1 income per household. Starting around 2001, property prices began to rise significantly. By 2006, the average home cost around 6 times the median household income, making home ownership more challenging, but still achievable with dual incomes. By 2021, millennials face house prices that are often over 8 to 10 times the median income in many Australian cities, particularly Sydney and Melbourne. Millennials often need to save 5 to 10 years worth of income to afford a deposit as property prices outpace savings rates. While in 1991, saving for a deposit might have meant skipping a few dinners out, in 2021, it often feels like skipping an entire year's worth of holidays. Renting has become less affordable over time as well, with a larger share of income now spent on rent. As a result, millennials often face even longer periods of renting as they save for a deposit, further delaying home ownership. The next chapter in housing affordability is yet to be written. Leave a comment below. What do you think it will look like for the next generation? I hope you enjoyed the journey through the decades. While each generation faces its own hurdles, history shows that people always find ways to adapt. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.